guys, this is Holland with the Wolverine.com, and Michigan has scored a key win on the recruiting trail in the 2024 recruiting class. Before we talk about that, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st of this year. That gets you premium inside recruiting information, team information, basketball, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more. Plus, you get to be part of a great message board community over on the Fort for just $29.99 until August 31st. And that gets you through the late signing period, spring ball, summer official visit season. So make sure to take advantage now. All right, guys, like I said, Michigan scored a key win on the recruiting trail today, landing three-star defensive lineman Ted Hammond out of Cincinnati, St. Xavier, which produces a lot of high-end Division I talent, plays against great competition. So I think Michigan landed a diamond in the rough out of Ohio and a guy that's going to be a really solid contributor down the line. For those of you that aren't familiar with Ted Hammond, and I know a lot of you probably aren't, Ted Hammond is a guy that just picked up an offer literally like last week. Michigan brought him in for an unofficial visit over the weekend. They did decide to make a push and were able to secure a commitment today. Hammond is a guy that I think flew under the radar a little bit, though he was starting to get some major traction. Oklahoma just extended an offer not too long ago. Iowa, which is really good at identifying defensive linemen in the Midwest early on, extended an offer. He also held offers from other Power 5 schools like Washington, Kentucky, Rutgers, Cal, West Virginia. So I think Hammond is a guy that could definitely outplay his ranking depending on how he develops for the next year or so. Right now, he is rated as the number 31 defensive lineman in the country, as well as the number 365 overall prospect nationally. Now, Hammond's listed at 6'4", 265 pounds, but if you see him in photos, he has the frame to add a lot of weight. And what I wrote over on the Wolverine.com is he reminds me a little bit of last year's commit, Brooks Barr, who was an early pledge at the defensive line position from the Midwest. Barr was a guy that rapidly added weight. He was listed at 250 early on in his recruitment and got up close to 280. So he was able to add a lot of weight in a short amount of time. I think Ted Hammond this offseason could do about the same. Now, he could be a bigger edge guy, but it looks like he's going to add weight to that frame and be more of a 3 technique. So I see him very much in the same mold as Brooks Barr. I think he's a high-level technician, a guy that has been very well coached. Like I said, he plays at a high-level program in Cincinnati against quality competition. I do think he's a little bit limited athletically, but the frame is there and the tools are there for Mike Elston to work with. And as you guys should know, Mike Elston is known as one of the better developers of talent, and more importantly, one of the better teachers of defensive line talent throughout the country. And on top of that, you have Ben Herbert, who is an absolute expert at putting on weight for guys with the type of frame that Ted Hammond has. So there's no better situation for a guy like a Brooks Barr or a guy like a Ted Hammond than Michigan right now. You get to be developed in the strength and conditioning program and maximize your potential from a frame standpoint under Ben Herbert, and you get to continue developing your game while you sit a few years under Mike Elston. And I do think Hammond is a guy that is going to sit for a few years. I think he's going to really develop in the weight room, really come into his own as a football player on the field. So you might not hear from Ted Hammond for 2 or 3 years, but he's a guy that I think Michigan fans will be happy to have on the roster several years from now. I think he'll be a great depth piece and a late career starter. And this continues the trend of Michigan recruiting well in Ohio. Remember, Michigan had basically abandoned the state. They hadn't really pulled any guys from enemy territory outside of basically Rod Moore over the last few cycles. area recruiter Steve Klingscale is starting to change that. He started making an impact in Ohio last cycle, pulling in some diamonds in the rough like Jason Hewlett and DJ Waller and Cameron Calhoun. And I think that set the stage for Michigan to be able to have more success with higher end talent this cycle. Now, Ted Hammond's probably in the same mold as that kind of group, but Hammond did have those Power 5 offers I was talking about and was starting to see his stock pick up. But you also have a commitment already from on 300 offensive lineman Luke Hamilton, who is the highest rated Michigan commit from Ohio since I've been on this beat. So for the last, 3 or 4 cycles or however long it's been, Hamilton's already the highest rated guy they've pulled from Ohio. And I think they're in a position to pull more of those types of talents now that they've been able to secure Hamilton and Hammond and the guys they added late last cycle. Hamilton has been a very vocal recruiter for Michigan, and I think adding Hammond only helps. Obviously, Michigan beating Ohio State in back-to-back years has allowed that state to open up a little bit more. It used to be in previous cycles that guys from Ohio that were, in the top 10 basically would commit to Ohio State if Ohio State pushed for them. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. I think Michigan can really make a run at some of these high-level guys, and you're already seeing that. Like I said, Hamilton's on board. Brian Robinson, an on 300 edge, is leaning towards Michigan. He was on the visit with Hammond and Hamilton this weekend. Ben Roebuck, 3-star offensive tackle, was also on campus this past weekend and will probably end up being a 4-star prospect when it's all said and done. Bryce West, a top 30 player nationally and the number 1 cornerback on Michigan's board, was just on campus a couple of weekends ago. Top 100 running back Jordan Marshall from Cincinnati was also on Michigan's campus a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like that one's going to be a Michigan-Ohio State battle. This coming weekend, you're seeing a pair of on 300 offensive linemen from Ohio come in Devontae and Deontay Armstrong, as well as 4-star athlete Demarion Witten from Cleveland. So a lot of talent in the state of Ohio in 2024. It is a really strong year in enemy territory, so it's important for Michigan to continue to build that bridge back to Ohio. And I think Steve Klingscale, again, as the area recruiter, has done a tremendous job. Mike Elston has ties throughout the Midwest, being a Michigan man himself, having recruited the entire region for so long at Notre Dame and now at Michigan. So I think those two guys are really helping Michigan make a dent in Ohio. And I think Hammond, while not a super exciting take from a rankings perspective, is another very solid land from the state of Ohio, getting guys that understand the rivalry, that buy into the Michigan culture. I think you're getting that in Hamilton and Hammond. All right, guys, for more Michigan recruiting information, make sure to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is completely free.
Thank you so much for watching. For more videos from the Wolverine, whether it be football, basketball, recruiting, live shows, and more, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for the latest.